Good morning, everyone, from Bratislava, the Slovakian capital. We had a very fun night out last night with a Czech and a Slovak. They introduced us to babriaška, which is a typical liquor here in Slovakia. We're going to show you around Bratislava today. We're not here all that long, so this is just going to be our day showing you what you can do if you stop here for a day trip. 24 hours in Bratislava starts right now. Slovakia has a very specific type of cuisine, so in Max and Sid fashion, we absolutely have to try it. This place is called Slovak Pub. We're going to stop in before we continue our adventure. So we got into some traditional Slovak food last night, but we were too busy with the babriaška flowing to talk about what exactly it was. So we're kind of doubling back on some of our favorites from last night to show you exactly what you can find here in Bratislava. This is a traditional homemade Slovak beer that is served only at this pub. So these two things are absolute staples within Slovakian cuisine. It's like small potato dumplings that is served in this cheese. It's a sheep's cheese. It's traditional Slovakian cheese. And it's also served with crispy bacon, or kind of like pancetta on the top. And we also have the pierogi. So Slovakia's take on the pierogis. They're stuffed with usually pork and cabbage. And then they have this awesome sauce on top, like dill and sour cream, a lot of sour cream. And this crispy bacon is on all of it, including the cabbage right here. So this is kind of just mixed in with that crispy pork. It's awesome.
Max just asked me what's my favorite dish on this platter. That is such a hard question because they're all so good and so different. They all just go so well together. They're all kind of infused with the sheep's cheese and then added with this, the cabbage, the sourness. It's all so good.
So I have to say that we have really enjoyed the Slovak food so far.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Very, very good. It's all kind of cooked with the sheep's cheese, and it's just kind of infused in this like creamy sauce. The one thing I was thinking is that if you are lactose intolerant, this might be a tough place to go, at least for the sides and the appetizers. They do have roasted meat and sausage and all those good things as well, but lots of cream and lots of cheese.
They're so good. So that place is called Slovak Pub. It's got over 8,000 reviews on Google Maps, which is typically what we use to find places to go. So
it's always a good sign when there's thousands of reviews, not hundreds.
So that restaurant was on Obchodana Street, and now we're heading to the Old Town. So this is St. Michael's Gate. It's one of the, I think, 3 entrances to the Old Town. Fortunately, it's under scaffolding now. Pity.
We've had a spell of bad luck when it comes to construction. Big Ben was under construction, the Széchenyi Bridge in Budapest, and now Michael's Gate here in Bratislava. But what can you do? Things have to be fixed.
They're just fine-tuning for the summer season.
Yeah, that's, again, our whole argument about off-peak times versus on-peak times. See if they're going to get some give and take, some pros and cons.
made it to the main square here in Bratislava. This is often like a good meeting point if you're meeting up with friends or family. Just say meet at the fountain in the main square. That's what we did with our friends last night since we had no way of contacting them since we're only working on Wi-Fi here.
Similar to all the other old towns that we've seen on this trip, it is completely closed off from vehicle traffic, so every single street that you're going to be on in this area is just all pedestrians walking around. And this is definitely, as Sydney said, kind of the center point. There is a very famous statue that we're going to go check out. So this statue represents a Napoleonic soldier, and the legend goes that when Napoleon invaded this area of Bratislava, there actually was one soldier that fell in love with a Slavic woman and ended up staying. It's just supposed to represent peace and love, which of course is very important to remember in times like these. So we just walked underneath Old Town Hall, and it leads to this courtyard, and right behind me is the Museum of City History here in Bratislava. So it's just so cool in these old cities. I mean, it actually feels like we're in the courtyard of a medieval town. And when you walk back outside of that courtyard we were just in the distance you can see St. Martin's Church. We'll be talking about that later, the most famous church in Bratislava.
There's so many of these little unique statues around. Let's go see if we can find another. He's been trying to get out for like 30 years.
So this is definitely one of the more charming statues in the whole city. It represents a city worker right out of this manhole, kind of just taking a break with a very sly grin on his face. And it is said that if you rub his helmet, you can make a wish. But you're not supposed to tell anyone what it is. So as we mentioned, Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia, and it's really interesting how this city is situated. It's almost right on the line of 3 different sovereign states, obviously Slovakia, and then Austria to the west, Hungary to the south. So right where this is situated on the Danube River, I know that sounds familiar to viewers of this channel. This is one of the few capitals in the world that is near 3 sovereign states.
For all you Americans traveling to Bratislava, here is the US Embassy. Now I know my mother will appreciate this. She's always like, have you seen the embassy? Do you know where to go? Well, here it is, Mom.
It is quite heavily guarded, which is kind of crazy. So as we briefly mentioned before, this is called St. Martin's Church, and it is the oldest church here in Bratislava. When you think about where Bratislava is situated, pretty much right between Budapest and Vienna, it was a major hub for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, especially being on the Danube River as well. So a lot of Hungarian kings were actually coronated at this very church. The interesting thing about it today is that you can probably hear the traffic right behind me. It's situated basically right on the on-ramp of the highway. So I honestly wonder how Slovakian history buffs feel about that. But a lot of history happened here, and it is a very, very old building.
So this behind me is called the UFO because it kind of looks like an alien structure. It's an observation deck that also has a restaurant on top. I'm sure you can see beautiful skyline view of Bratislava and probably into Austria as well, as Austria is just behind the UFO a few kilometers away. It's said to be one of the most beautiful views of Bratislava, especially at sunset, but I think we have another one up our sleeves that's even better and free. Now we know Bratislava isn't on a ton of people's list of travel destinations. It's a smaller capital, even smaller than Zagreb.
But we do have to say, the little time that we've spent here, we've really enjoyed it. There's just this medieval charm to this place. And again, anything like that, we don't get that at all back where we're from. So I can understand people gravitating a lot more towards Vienna or Budapest if they're in this area. But Bratislava is just a short hour drive away from Vienna, maybe about 2.5 hours from Budapest. So if you are in this region, it's not a bad place to stop for a day.
If you're on a Danube River cruise, if you're just touring this region, Bratislava is worth at least a night here. Plus, the food is amazing. These city maps are so cool. We saw one just like this in Zagreb, but You can see this is the old town here, and it looks like this was an old moat that surrounded the city. Here's the church. Here's where we entered. That is so cool. It seems to be there was a moat surrounding the old town. I mean, how medieval can you get?
So this beautiful building behind me is known quite plainly as the Blue Church. It's not really historically significant or even that old, especially compared to St. Martin's Church from before, but it really is beautiful. And you can see it from all the way down the street. It just kind of strikes your eye with that very sky blue color.
At long last, we're making the trek up to the castle. Castle, fortress.
And now we have one more step up to go to that ledge, and we're gonna see the sunset. We have arrived at our final destination of the night. This is Hrad Castle. A lot of people just refer to it as Bratislava Castle as well. There's actually an office here for the president of Slovakia, or prime minister, I don't know exactly how you say it, the leader of Slovakia. She has an office here, so that's pretty cool. We came up here for the sunset. It wasn't as good as last night's because it was a little bit hazier. You couldn't see the sun as much, but still some awesome colors in the sky. But you can't beat what we got last night. I actually think the UFO might be worth it for sunset because this little lookout point that we went to, there's like a building in the way a little bit and some flagpoles. With a UFO, you'd probably get, you know, unobstructed views of the sun setting. But the one we got on the bridge last night, really can't beat it. Probably one of the coolest things I've ever captured on the camera. We also learned that the sandstorms in Africa can sometimes affect this region as well. The sand comes all the way up through the wind. So this red sun that we saw last night, it could be because of some of the particles in the air that you really can't perceive just with the naked eye, but that are absolutely there. And we also noticed in Budapest, the one day that it rained, after there was kind of like this layer of dirt on all of the cars. So that's kind of an interesting thing that we didn't know about. All the way from the Sahara, there's sand that comes up through those storms. It is what it is as far as cars and houses and stuff getting dirty, but that sun, that red glow in the sun, that's pretty cool.
Tomorrow we're making our way up the Danube River. Be on the lookout for our next video.
Thanks so much for spending some time with us in Bratislava, and we hope to see you in future videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not yet, so you know whenever our videos are coming out.
If you've been to Bratislava before, please comment down below on what we missed, so when the next time we come, we can be sure to check those out.
There's a lot more adventures on the way. We're just getting started.
And we'll see you in our next video. Bye!